Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts. When I'm recording this, it is the last week of February. I know I'm not going to post this video until after the last week in April, which is the final day for, or final week when you can apply for the Cardmaker of the Year competition, because I don't want to give away what I'm entering. And I've already recorded one video, and this is going to be my second project, my first card project. The other one I created is a non-card project. And I had the idea for this card ever since I got this Frida Kahlo paper pad or pack from a Facebook Live. It was a prize I won for commenting. And Sam Calcutta was creating some cards with these, and it inspired me to a card that I have never made. So a few months ago I thought, well, I'm going to create this card now for this competition, and I'm not going to tell you yet what I'm going to do, but it will be a frame card. I'm going to create a flower frame, but I'm also trying to make it an easel card. I've seen frame cards before, I've seen easel cards, I haven't seen the whole mix, and I know it's going to be really big, my card. Because I want it to be 7 inches wide, and because the frame sits on top of the easel, it will actually be taller as well. But I'm not bothered about that because I want it to be a showstopper. What I have already prepared is I've just got some black cardstock, and I would like to cut 2 circles for my frame, and I just wanted to show you how I do this. I only have a small die cutting machine which only allows 6-inch die cuts, dies, and this is why I'm using my circle cutter. This is a Made to Surprise circle cutter that I got from Craft Stash, and I've shown it in a different video. I think it's amazing, and it allows me to make bigger circles. Okay, for those of you who look closely at my videos, you will notice that I've added some numbers here on my circle cutter because I have to edit the video, because the first time round I got the measurements wrong, because the thickness of the frame wasn't what I thought it would be. I wanted the thickness to be just under 1 inch or even 3/4 inches, but on here you have to make it 2 inches to actually get the width, and this is what I didn't take into consideration. So I have set my circle cutter to just under 7 inches. I just want to be a little bit of a gap compared to the easel card at the bottom. What you need to do is you just set it down in the middle of the cardstock. You can go a bit to the edge if you want to save this card. And you just make sure that when you set it down that you've got space all the way around and you don't get to the edge. And this works fine. So once you have got it, you just press the middle down and you move this round, but you also press this down to make sure you cut through the cardstock. If you hold this down properly, that should keep the paper in place and it should cut through. There we go. So lift the outside up a bit to see if you need to cut anywhere. And you need to do this now before you take it off. So you don't take it off anyway just yet, so keep it on there for the second step. So that's come off quite nicely. I can actually lift that off, put that away. So now with it still in place, don't move this round, I now need to change the width to just under 5 inches. So lift this up a bit so the blade doesn't cut the paper. I'll tell you what, I will actually just do it a bit over 5 inches so it's not 1 inch wide. So, and same as before, keep this in place, press this down. And depending on the thickness of your cardstock, it's a bit easier, a bit more difficult. So again, I'm just going around making sure I've cut it everywhere. And then I think this is all off. Yes, so now I can take this off, and I've cut the same first frame. I'm going to do this again with the same measurements. I'm not too fussed if I get the inner quite right, but as long as the outer one is fine, because I need that for the back. And I will also, in the same way, cut a little mat, probably from holographic cardstock, but I'm going to do this all offline. For the easel card base, I have cut 2 pieces of cardstock. This one is 7 inches by 7 inches, and that will be the base. And this one is 7 inches by 7.5, because I have created a flap here, and I have scored at a half here, and this is, or if you do it the other way around, this is at 3.5 to get the middle for the 7 inches, and then at 7, and then I've just cut 2 wedges off there, and this will be my bit where that will basically create the easel. So now we need to cut half a circle out of this. So what I'm going to do for this, and again I haven't prepared it, so if it all goes wrong I'll have to edit this heavily. I'm going to just draw a line here in the middle so I know where to sit down my circle cutter, and I've already marked the middle of this here, so at 7.5. My idea is I don't want it to be a full half circle. I want to sit it a bit, wanted this to sit a bit higher. So basically, I've got my frames here. I want these to sit a bit like this. So I basically can use this as a template, or I'll tell you what, even better, just take the insert, make sure I don't need the line then actually. So make sure I've got the same width on either side. That is just 1 and 1/4 and 1 and 1/4. I tell you what, I do this in centimeters. I'm German and sometimes I find that easier. So that's just over 3, so maybe just a wee bit over here. So, and again you can define how high up you want it. I want it a bit further down, I think, like this. So I forget about the circle cutter. I will actually cut this by hand, because that will be so much easier. So I'm just drawing this round. But if you have a die cutting machine and you have got the dies big enough, just do it with them. So you can see what I've done there. So I'm going to cut this by hand, and it will be hidden behind the frames anyway, so that should be okay. If you have got some edges from the circle cutter, just use a nail file and you can just file these off. Just go along like this, and then they come off very smoothly, and you've got a very neat edge. But we'll be covering most of these anyway. As the frame will be heavily embellished, I don't want to embellish the base plate too much, but I think this strip is really nice, and I'm going to adhere that to the front and to the back, and I will also decorate the bottom piece. When you set the easel cart up, you will only see this much, so again I won't be bothering too much about that, which again might be using some of these strips, but I don't want it to be too sort of wild. I'm even thinking about just using these pictures here and put them in like tiles. I think that would be really nice, but again I don't want it to be too busy. So I'll have a look. I'm going to do this all off camera and I'm going to show you the result. What I will do after I've decorated this bit, I will glue the flap down in the back, because whatever embellishment I'm going to put down here, I'm going to cover the flap. I thought about putting the flap underneath the card, but I find it does keep it a bit sort of, I don't know, it doesn't flap down that nicely or fold down that nicely, so I'd rather sit it on the top here. And I'm going to use my quick grab glue for that, because that will really hold it in place. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you when I've finished. Okay, so I have laid out my pattern here. The way I did this, these are not glued down yet. What I have done is I drew a line here in the middle here, so I knew where I had to align this square here, or diamond shape, and then I could just align these on the side here and down here. And I basically cut out all the others and I aligned them here now, varying between the sides where I put this one and this one. And I also have cut in half, some in half, to use on the edges here. So basically this one here cut in half, and I can use here and here. I should have thought about this. I could have cut the bottom bits off here and used them at the top here, but I just cut 2 more pictures here. And these here, I will just use the edges here, so I'm not bothered that they're upside down. And then this leaves me, I'll show you when it's finished, leaves me with a strip down here where I can just take the other patterns, the one that I haven't used on the front here, and I just glue this down here. And I'm using again, I'm just using my quick grab glue, but you could use your Coral glue. Anything would work here really. So I've glued all the pictures down. I haven't glued down the strip yet because I'm lacking a bit of paper underneath. I put some scrap paper underneath because I knew these would overlap and I didn't want them to mess up my mat here. So all I'm doing now is I can see where my card is, so I'm just cutting these off a little bit, and it will be easier to release the whole panel to then cut it to size. I'm hoping now that I can easily peel this off. It should only stick down to the side there. Yep. Something here, but it doesn't matter. And now I can cut the excess off from the back, and then I'll just adhere the strip. So here's my finished card base for the easel card, just decorated with strip here and there, which actually is a bit wonky, but never mind. And basically the patterned card here and the strip there which covers the flap, and the easel card will sit up like this. I will put a stopper here once I have finished the card and I know at which angle I want it to sit. It also depends on the weight of the top easel here, so it might be further back to expose the whole bit, or it might be sitting further to the front. I have already decided to use a sentiment from the same pattern paper, either just this little beautiful, or there is one topper here which says you are beautiful, so either of these will sit here as a topper. But as I said, I'll do that when the wreath is finished and when I've adhered it, and I'll be doing that another day, so I finish the video here for now. Okay, so since I last kept myself busy with this card, I have done a bit of crafting off screen, but I stopped myself today and I wanted to show you how I assemble the wreath for this card. So remember, I have cut my 2 circles, and I now want to cut an acetate circle, but I'm just doing that by hand. I'm not doing it with the circle cutter. So all I'm doing is I've got my acetate here. This is actually from a visor that I've cut apart, and I'm just laying this on the circle so I can see the size I need, but I don't want to cut it the same size as the frame. I want to cut it on the inside, so I'm just using my Sharpie and I'm just marking where I want to cut it, and this way nobody will see any edges, or nobody will see the pen either. So I hope you can see what I'm doing. And I can just cut that with my scissors, and then I've got the inner here for the frame. The other thing I want to have as an embellishment on the wreath is I've got this little mirror here that I had from a makeup or sponge makeup container, and I saved this, and I thought this would be really nice to have on the card as a theme, because I want to put this embellishment on the sentiment that says beautiful. And wouldn't it be nice to actually see yourself in this sort of mirror and remind yourself as a woman that you're beautiful? And funnily enough, yesterday was International Women's Day, so this is really apt. So you can see my camera there, and you can see me. There I am. So what I've done for this is I want to give this some sort of frame. So I've cut a back for it, which is slightly bigger than the actual mirror. I've used 3 of my nesting dies. I'll just show you these so you can see how close together they are, and they've got this stitched element. And I have, so as I said, I've used the biggest one to cut the back, and then I have used the bigger one and the one down to cut this sort of frame. This actually determines the size of the back for you. And I cut this from craft foam, but you can cut this from cardstock. Maybe you just need 2 layers then, just to make up for the thickness of the mirror. Sorry, the mirror keeps on sticking down because it's still got some glue on the back. And then I cut a smaller frame, same outside, same biggest one, but the second one down, to basically keep this in place. And this way I can just basically handle the mirror there and can stick it onto the frame and onto the acetate. And I will glue this down with my red tape. I think this would be the best, as I said, if I were to say red tape on the mirror. This one I will use my acrylic glue, the collal, and this one probably the acrylic glue as well. I have to have a look what sticks down on the foam. And yeah, and then I want to show you how I assembled my flowers. I have a few examples here of how I started off, because I did this all off screen, but I'm going to grab them now. I'm going to show you what I did with those. So this is my selection of flowers that will potentially go on the frame. I'll have to play around with them and see whether there are actually too many of them. First ones I want to show you are these bird of paradise flowers. I saw these on a card on Facebook, and I asked the lady where she got them from. These are from Spellbinders, and I'm going to link to them below. I think these are absolutely amazing. And I'm also going to link to the video from the creator of these dies, who shows you how to actually shape these. I'm not going to show you on the video because it will just make my video too long. But I created 2 of these, and they will sit above each other and will have some leaves added to them. So I'm going to glue all these down with hot glue, but the flowers themselves I glue together with my quick grab glue, so they are already finished, and I've already shaped them. As I said, I'm going to link to the video how to shape all these. And then I have made these here. I'm going to link to Sam Calcott's video, because she shows how to make flowers like this, and this is where I learned it. The only thing I wanted to show you is I have just used my ink blending brushes, and I've got these thinner stencil brushes, and they were very good for this. And I've just sort of more or less randomly went over them with my orange and red and a bit of purplish blue actually on the outside, so you can really play around with these. And these are just yellow and an orange centre, and you can actually see the brush strokes there. I just brushed it out, and then I formed them, which you will see in Sam's video, and I just glued them together. The only little thing I wanted to show you is I made myself this little tool, which is just a piece of wire, because when you try to pull the stamens through, and I've got these, I bought these on Amazon. They're sort of 2 on a loop here. I thought it was really tricky to get them through the hole, but I just threaded them on here and then just put this through the hole and just basically pulled them through, and that made it very easy. And again, I will put some hot glue on the back to keep these in place. These I have pulled through completely, but with these I decided to keep them a bit longer, so I'm going to push them out a bit and have them a bit looser because I think that would look more natural. And then I've got little flowers here, but I decided not to use stamens on these, and I would just find some flat beads to put on these. These are more or less to fill the frame, and I also have got some leaves that I can use to fill the frame if I need to. So I just wanted to show you this quickly. So I think I've mentioned everything I need to mention. The acetate I will also glue down with my red tape, but I will just put individual strips on it, I think. Definitely maybe some thinner acetate on it, and then, sorry, thinner red tape, and then I can put the quick grab glue on where there's no acetate to hold the paper together. One thing I need to do though is, before I glue these together, but I will show you that probably in the video, the one that is in the back, I have to score that on, because that will sit, basically that will have to fold on this score line. So if I align this here, the one that sits on the back has to be scored on this line. Sorry, you couldn't see that there. So if I align that there, the one on the back has to be scored. So I'm going to mark where I have to score it, and I must remember to do that. And the back of the frame will not be glued down on the acetate, so I basically put the adhesive just on the front panel, and then we'll glue down the circle in the back after I've glued it onto the frame here. That's important to remember. So I think again I will do this all off screen. You don't need to see that because it'll make the video way too long, and then I'll show you what I have done. So just to show you how I measure where I need to score this, I've got my circle upside down and I'm laying this card down and aligning this on the edge here, but I want to move it up a bit higher because I want this to not sit right on the edge. And I'm also making sure I've got the same distance on the top here as I have on the bottom, and I can see the score line here, so I'm just going to mark this with my, I just use my pickup tool, but you know, a white watercolor pencil would work as well. So now I know that this score line will fold properly, and I need this before I adhere this to the other circle. So I have scored and folded this now, so now I can adhere this to this panel on the card, because this is the one that's going down first. Make sure it is the smaller one, half of this circle, and basically where I've measured it, I want to glue it down. And obviously I'm not putting glue on too far in this circle here, or at least I try not to, because I don't want this to stick down at the bottom. So I will probably just put it down on the red card here and then glue this down, making sure that this score line here folds on the score line on the black card, folds on the score line of the red base. So, and now that I've adhered the bottom, and as you can see I put a piece of scrap paper on the bottom, so I definitely make sure not to have any residue glue on the bottom bit. I can fold this over now, and now with some red tape I can adhere this onto the card base here and onto the red card here. The red tape, if you use the thin one, it's really easy to put around in just one circle, and it does have a few folds when you have got the release paper on it, but once you peel that off it's really rather flat, so that's not an issue at all. I don't know if you can see that there, so it's not too difficult. So I'm going to do this now. I'm going to put it probably, maybe I'd even put 2 round, because I want to make sure this is properly adhered on the inside of the circle and the outside, and that will just keep it in place, and I can then glue it down like this. I just had thought when I started the outer circle with a red tape, I've already glued that one inside down. It's actually better where I've got no acetate. It will be better for me to use the acrylic glue, because card on card will hold better and that will be sturdier, so I shall do that. So I have stuck it down. What I did not take into account when I glued it down, and I only have one go at it with my red tape, I actually got a sort of cut or a mark all the way through. Ideally I would have had that either facing that way down or facing across, but it doesn't matter. I shall just hide that bit with my mirror and then with the flowers on the top. So I will stick this down now with wider red tape, and then I will decorate it with my flowers, and I'm just going to play around with it, and I'm going to fill this up, have some flowers here on the bottom as well. Oh, you can see me there again. And yeah, and I think I will just show you the finished card then. So I have now assembled the bird of paradise flowers, so I can easily align these. I will have 2 on top of each other, and I have decided on my layout of the flowers here. I will start with putting down the little white flowers, and I think the leaves, maybe I'll put the leaves in underneath, but I find that a bit tricky, so I think I'll start with those, and then we'll put on the bigger ones and those with the hot glue. And as I said, then I will show you the finished card. So my card is nearly finished, so I have glued all these down, but by the way I'm filming it from the side so I don't have to look at my nostrils all the time seeing me in the mirror. I have put some of these pearl drops into the middle of the little flowers because I couldn't find any flat beads. So I'm just waiting for those to dry, but everything else I've adhered with the hot glue. I've put, where I'm glued this down on the acetate, this bit here, I just put a tiny strip of the red tape behind it, but you can also use a glue dot. The rest, as I said, I've adhered with the hot glue. And now all I need to do, whilst this is drying, I need to create this stopper. And this is taken from the paper pad, or the paper pack I should say. I just cut this out randomly, so not the right shape yet. I have put some double-sided adhesive onto some black cardstock, but because I need this to be a firm piece of cardstock, but I just want to show you how you then cut this without getting caught on the adhesive. I just put the release paper from the adhesive back over it, so it will stick down there, and then I can see my shape through it, and I can cut through this along the lines here with my little guillotine, or you can even use your scissors, and you won't have any mess. And then this will be nicely stuck down on that black piece of cardstock. You can obviously use normal glue if you wanted to, but I wanted this to be fully stuck down. And then I will prop this up on some black foam pads to keep my easel card in place. So here's my finished card. I will film it again when I'm setting it up and don't have my camera overhead, but it basically folds up as an easel card. Let me just tilt this a bit so you can see it, and I've got the stopper here, and it sits up like this. I'm just try not to touch the flowers that are still damp, so basically sits up like this. But as I said, I'll just film a little bit more for you to see how it stands up completely, and it folds flat like this. And I will create a box for this to fit this into. It's not too high all in all, so that's not too bad. It's just a bit wider than the average card, and I'm really pleased with this. So if you like this card, you might want to give me a thumbs up, And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.